FNJ to start the debate from today. Here. Prime Minister for that speech. Let's call upon the Leader of Opposition from 50 Shapes of Water. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, today in my speech, first off, I'll be giving out signs of side opening opposition in the debate today, and then moving on to my points. But before that, a few rebuttals against Prime Minister's speech. Now, here's what she has mainly stated about in her speech. Number one, presidents about professionalism and how the intense scrutiny that President Trump gets from the liberals harms his professionalism, and second, about how these voices harms President Trump's feelings. Now, why we believe that at the end of the day, that is unimportant. Number one, you have to understand that President Trump is no longer an actual normal human as you and I, wherein they are actually, he is placed at a status wherein he needs to take care of his own personal image and his own personal image and his own personal appearance to out the public. Because here's what he is. He's the president of the United States, and he is expected to represent the people of America and represent the agendas and the moralities that exist within America in itself. He is supposed to represent the ideals that America supports and the things that America believes is right. He is the one that represents America on international levels and even in local levels. Now, you do realize that in your side, when you allow, though we do believe that some of these scrutiny is kind of immoral to an extent, but it is justifiable when you say that at the end of the day, his image to the country is very important to the presidency and to the people of the United States. Yes?
And don't you think it's unfair for you to actually put a typo of his to be a representative of Malaysia, of America?
Now, you do realize that typo of his has actually incited discussions outside the country about if this president actually has any acts, is this president actually controlled at all. People are wondering about the legitimacy of the American presidency just because of that single typo. Imagine if he actually made larger mistakes than that, and he actually continues on to be mindlessly typing on Twitter, like this. Like, honestly, this will only harm the American image more than he has already did, and we believe that at the end of the day, it is actually justifiable for people to attack him on these kind of issues because it shouldn't have existed on the person at such high power and the person that has the responsibility to take care of the image of America as a nation. Now, moving on to my points. Here are my 2 points. Number one, about how Donald Trump actually deserves this kind of scrutiny because of how he has actually built up his image, and second, about free speech. Now, first, about how he actually deserves this kind of scrutiny. Now, you realize that Donald Trump in his entire political career has actually built his entire career on scrutiny itself. He has made himself infamous by saying controversial statements like Obama is from Kenya, for example, and through these kind of constant attacks on liberal media, he has actually gained the support because conservatives hate liberals, and when liberals say something bad about Donald Trump, they immediately back Donald Trump. He has gained his support through that, and honestly, if you want to go on your stance, wherein like it's best, wherein like you say like we need to do what's best for his feelings, then honestly, on your end, you're actually stopping Donald Trump from furthering his political agenda within the conservative circles. Now, here's why he actually deserves it. He elevated himself through this scrutiny, and we believe that in itself is actually immoral, wherein he uses constant controversies and constant conspiracies in order to elevate himself in the political status. And right now, even as president, he's actually still trying to attempt to gain popularity through these kind of methods, wherein he constantly says provocative statements that might incite liberal fury. Now, we believe that it is entirely justifiable that liberals attack him because of these kinds of statements. For example, we need to build a wall. And honestly, it is ultimately justifiable, wherein a lot of the statements are purposefully or perhaps accidentally made controversial in the first place. Now, moving on to the ideas of free speech. This is the idea that they themselves have actually not talked about at all. Wherein that we say that it is important that all kinds of speech, even hate speech to an extent, is actually important for constant discourse within America in itself. Now, here's why we think. We believe that when people are vocal within their political beliefs, or even their personal beliefs on how a president should act and shouldn't act, we believe that is ultimately a good thing because it allows politicians to do a reflection of what the people actually want from them, what the people in their country expect them to become, and what the people of their country expect them to be a model of. Now, when you see that Donald Trump does not fit into that kind of category, wherein he is an ideal personification of what a presidency should look like in America, in the eyes of Americans, you do realize that And to realize that at the end of the day, it is justifiable that they send out those messages to Donald Trump so that in hopes that he can hear it and he can understand that there are certain actions that shouldn't be done, there are certain words that shouldn't be spoken, and there are certain things that he shouldn't have done, and only by apologizing for that or making up for that or at least not repeating the same incident again will he get the trust from them. When you look at his actions, I say that at the end of the day, it is actually justifiable that we criticize them, and at the end, we believe that free speech is actually the most important issue that we need to discuss on this debate today. Before I move on, yes?
Under your side, do you agree that even if people don't over scrutinize it, but just scrutinize it in general, would then your benefits or whatever your side thinks will happen at the end of the day?
Now, we believe that although simple scrutiny will do, but we believe the overwhelming extent is actually, the impact will actually be a lot more larger. If you realize nowadays, wherein like protests are happening and where scrutinizing is actually done on a larger scale than before, it actually sends out the voices of the public more clearly through the voices of liberals, more clearly through this conservative wall that they have placed around us and this conservative illusion that Donald Trump himself lives in, wherein he believes that he's the king of America and whatnot. Now, we also say that my other point will be about, like, we also say that on larger end, the overwhelming scrutiny of Donald Trump, it doesn't only consist of hate speech, it also consists of actual analysis on his actions and on his policies alone. It isn't like purely just hate speech and talking about the entire COVID incident. It's actually, a lot of it is actually about a satire or sarcasm about his current actions and his personal image as a president, which we believe to be entirely justifiable on our side for a president to meet those expectations. And when he has failed to do so, we believe that at the end of the day, people should scrutinize him, people should criticize him for failing to meet expectations that he has the responsibility to fulfill at the first place. And with that, I would like to say, go with opening on.
Okay, thank you to Leader of Opposition for that speech. To continue to set government, let's call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. Okay?
about Donald Trump, he comes to our mind as a figure, a political one who would give out one of the most controversial statements ever. Donald Trump is a famous icon. His fame as president is so great that everyone knows who he is. But his fame builds up from his controversial statements. All this scrutiny only fuels his fame even more, spreading all that he stated, all policies that he will want to pass or he has passed. In a sense, it's almost like he did it purposely, and if he did a really great job. Point is, Donald Trump is a political icon, someone who is known to the world, and he is going to face scrutiny. This scrutiny in itself is of course not at all good, but when you notice how his fame is also kind of coming from this exact overwhelming scrutiny instead of only just being a simple political icon. He is a controversial political icon, an icon who is able to gain so much attention and critics that it is now overwhelming. He has been dealing with scrutiny for so long, every single day, yet it barely shook him. He would even respond to some of this scrutiny with a funny response or whatever. Right now, he is on a pedestal, a place easiest to be attacked. But he made these attacks into fuel for his fame. Nothing draws more attention than all the things that he has said, especially on Twitter. If we look at his Twitter, you know all the things he said. It's just it draws people to look at it and start to discuss about it. It has only become overwhelming since we see him having so much power. It is exactly this power that made this kind of scrutiny overwhelming. When people scrutinize someone, they expect some kind of response, some kind of change from the person that they are looking down at, that they are scrutinizing. That's why when they get no response, when they get silence from President Donald Trump, the scrutiny gets even worse. That's why it becomes overwhelming. That's why we believe that we shouldn't regret this kind of overwhelming scrutiny at all, because we think that it instead will help, will push Donald Trump to instead start to react to it. It will force him to react to it and change himself so that he would fit into expectations of his people better. This individual is a president, and it is ridiculous how he is making such silly mistakes such as on Twitter. That's why he gets scrutinized. People don't want to see this kind of silly mistakes. If he as a president allows himself to make this kind of silly mistakes, what will he do with bigger responsibilities? Is he going to just pass it off as some kind of silly joke or whatever? That's not what we want. We need his fame to start off discourse among people. His fame allowed people to see and hear everything he has said. We have to thank how he put himself in the pedestal to drive people to talk about him, talk about every single thing about him. This kind of discourse, reflection on Donald Trump, is needed. How it exists to, in a sense, keep him in check. Even if he doesn't listen or doesn't care, it's fine. That's why it gets overwhelming. That's why we believe it's fine to let it become overwhelming. That's why we're not going to regret it at all. It draws people to talk about it, and that is just perfect. We need everyone to look into it. We need this scrutiny to ensure that discourse is still going on among everyone. Liberals will be liberals, and they will speak out whatever on their mind. They should be able to, and why should we deny this kind of freedom, this kind of right? Yes.
Tell the House how is destructive discourse under your side is going to create a better America for America.
Alright. Well, the problem is discourse technically cannot be destructive or constructive. We believe that discourse is a kind of discussion, and it is this kind of discussion that drives people to talk about it, that drives people to criticize this kind of person, such a controversial icon who is supposed to have so much responsibility over a country, to make such silly mistakes. And we believe that it is this discourse that will help him change. That's why we're going to allow it. So to wrap it up on my speech and our side, we on Opening Opposition believe that this kind of scrutiny is justifiable when Trump himself also promotes hate speech too, like the xenophobic people that he pulled out from hiding, how he demonizing political opponents, responses, attacking Clinton, attacking media, all that he has done. That's why we need this overwhelming scrutiny. In a sense, to fight fire with fire. We need something strong to rise up and fight against what he has now. You see him sitting so comfortably in his pedestal, in his throne. We need something to shoot him down by having everyone to talk about it, by having everyone to start criticizing him and start to hate him for what he has done. It will be this kind of hate, this kind of discourse that will make him start to step out and change, start to respond and react to everyone below him, to everyone who doesn't at all agree to what he has done. And we believe that with that, this House shouldn't regret the overwhelming scrutiny on Donald Trump by liberals. And with that, I'd like to end my speech.
Okay, thank you to the Deputy Leader of Opposition. Now to start with from the closing government, let's call upon the Member of Government from Sembrong, Wannabe.
Yeah.
The moment when you're starting to fight fire with fire, we believe that no middle ground can be achieved at the end of the day. On the competition side, they told you on how when we are going to give greater fight with fire, they can actually achieve solution at the end of the day. But we think when you are trying to fight a bigger fire with fire, doesn't think the middle ground will never be achieved. And when they actually I will tell you what is the flaws of the opening opposition in my speech today. Firstly, the debate is about should we regard the overwhelming scrutiny towards Donald Trump for whatever position that he had or power that he had, and our side closing government, our approach today is actually we should regret this because it will give more harm than benefit. We believe that to this side, the opponent position told you how they want more constructive discourse to happen at the end of the day. But we think in the first place, when you are going to actually more scrutinize Donald Trump and you are making to actually spread the hatchet across the world and across the citizens in the USA itself, we believe in the first place that these people will have confirmation bias at the end of the day. This confirmation bias is actually really harmful because why? For you to get a better discourse, you need to have a rational mind and actually have a sense to a neutral thinking in order to have a better discourse at the end of the day. But when you actually spread the hatred, you actually make other people to have a confirmation bias to Donald Trump. Whatever that he will do will actually a bad thing, which means that this criticism is not again going to be really effective on how we see the status quo right now and how these people on the ground we see on no better discourse will happen because all these people will only think that Donald Trump is bad and this liberal will be more empowered and they think that they always do the right thing because that is the aim that they want in the first place. So second thing is how they think that these people think that Donald Trump do not fulfill every expectation when he became the president. We believe in the first place when you as a president you cannot fulfill everyone's expectation, every own citizen expectation. We believe in the first place that this Donald Trump also have their own ideology, also have some political strategy in order to make America great again, such as to make America great again. We believe in the first place, even if that you want to criticize whatever that Donald Trump do, doesn't mean that you actually need to actually spread the hatred and to actually backlash everything that he done and not actually support because you as a citizen to actually loyal to your country, even if that you have your own right to freedom of speech, but you actually do not need to use your freedom of speech to actually violate other people's right. But move on, yes.
So I think you celebrating this constructive discourse makes Trump more complicit to all of the ideas of you fighting for the rights of refugees, for the rights of gun laws as well.
We believe that for you as a liberal, in order to actually combat a certain narrative, they also have a lot of ways in order for you to do that. That doesn't mean that you actually need to overwhelmingly scrutinize. Actually, in the status quo right now, people use the social media to actually scrutinize this Donald Trump because of how Donald Trump uses Twitter to actually make hate speech. If you actually do hate speech to hate speech, if you think that Donald Trump is actually going to react towards the hate speech, we believe in the first fact this Donald Trump will actually feel more threatened and feel triggered about what their own citizens do. For Donald Trump, when he wants to show more about his power, we believe that these people, Donald Trump will actually do not respond goodly to whatever that whatever the citizens want in the first place. So that's why we think that is the problem right now, where these people are going to give hate speech to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will be more triggered about whatever that his own citizens talk about him. Please sit down. So moving on to our session on the closing government, how we actually degrade the credibility of the president itself. We believe the president, when we increase the criticism of towards Donald Trump, we are going to share. These people are going to share everything that Donald Trump say, or even Donald Trump do towards in the social media or even other platform that everybody read or everybody watch the first day. So that's how we think that how other people across the world perceive Donald Trump and USA, we actually think that only bad thing. When people discuss about United States of America, or people discuss about Donald Trump, they're only talking about the bad things that happen and not good things that happen, because these type of people, the liberal people, are going to actually only spread the bad things about their own president. We believe in the first year, even if the liberal people want to actually live in a better America, but their own people are the ones who actually making America to be more destructive. We believe in the first place that their aim in order to achieve the intention of their own government itself cannot be happen, and that's actually related to my second session on how the liberal wants to get attention but actually fail at the end of the day. Please sit down. We believe in the first phase on why they want to scrutinize Donald Trump itself, because they want to get attention and they want to make government think whatever that they want to be achieved and be fulfilled by the US government itself. But we think when they actually scrutinize their own government, how can the government itself want to compromise and want to have a middle ground and achieve how they can actually achieve the middle ground with their own citizens itself. With this liberal people, when they think that they have their own freedom of speech and they can do a lot of things, certain rights are actually limited. Because we think that if they actually do hate speech and they want people to actually have more support behind them, they want to have more support. So that's why they are going to actually do something that what other people do, which means that criticizing Donald Trump. So that's why we think when this liberal objective also doesn't actually this liberal objective is not actually same with the objective that they want. The first objective that they want is actually to get the attention of the government. But when Donald Trump become the president, they more likely to criticize Donald Trump, and they more likely to have the objective of the liberal movement itself are being changing, and they are not actually get whatever that they want, because they are actually scrutinize their own government, and they are actually the ones who making the government do not hear their own voices every day. So we believe in the first say that on the closing government side, we told you how that these people are also the most important stakeholders, and we on the closing government cater to this the liberal people, and we told you how they fail to get the attention of the government because they the one who making their progress to fail at the end of the day. So with that.
Okay, thank you to the government. Let's call upon the member of opposition from MBS. I have no idea. Tide Pods.
Yeah.
When abortion clinics are closed and when gun laws are not passed, and because liberals don't take too much of an active stance to stop Donald Trump in his tracks, we think that social media has failed and Donald Trump has failed the liberals in the society. But not only that, we think that the only way for individuals or liberals to fight against a government that is not willing to listen to social media is by going out and scrutinizing him even more and overwhelmingly scrutinizing him even more. What's the difference between OO and CO inside this debate? We're going to talk to you on how important and how likely liberals are liberals to get their way inside this debate. We think that both opening houses fail to provide you enough analysis on why the liberal stakeholders are one of the most important inside this debate. A few issues first. They argue that the biggest tangible harm inside our case is that Donald Trump is made fun of because of his appearance and all these kind of things. This is not exclusive to our side. It's much more, it's also likely to happen under their side. You cannot change the appearance, which means that it's likely for people to scrutinize you either way. But what's more important under here? When you're likely to discriminate in Donald Trump even more, it's likely for him to change. I'll get back to that in a few minutes, right? But going back to OG, right? They told you that it's a form of check and balance, and where you have to celebrate his policies and all these kind of things. This is wrong. I don't think it's good for you to celebrate the building of the wall that should be paid by Mexico and be hired by Mexico refugees. I don't think it's good to celebrate the closing of abortion clinics that is only approved by people in power who are men. That's why the check and balance is likely to happen under our side. Secondly, on destructive discourse, we think that destructive discourse is something that is only applicable and can only be applied in status quo, since Donald Trump is someone who is really firm and doesn't really change if you give him small advice like you should stop doing this and all these kind of things. Lastly, on their argument on how we don't have a middle ground, Donald Trump and liberals never had a middle ground to begin with, because he was always against the liberals and will always be against the liberals unless liberals take a stance to fight against him. The problem now is that liberals in status quo don't want to fight him or don't fight him. The understanding this is only better for destructive discourse, like I said, is likely to happen, but even so, better to happen. First argument on how we change the problem, right? Understand that they fail to characterize to you why individuals are scrutinized extremely under the circumstances. People will side closing opposition will do this for you. Individuals are scrutinized extremely not only because they create bad policies, but because individuals view them as people that they look down onto. This means that the more idiotic things or more stupid things that you do as a president, now it's easier for people to call you out, it's easier for people to scrutinize you. Why is this good? We think that when people are able to call you out more and more and more often, it's likely for you to change the way you think, not only because people think that you look down upon you, but when people go out onto the streets and campaign against you and burn your posters, that's that's the point in time where you are at the breaking point where you have to change. Teachers at school go out and miss their weeks at school because they want to protest against Donald Trump. Even children don't go to school because they want to protest against Donald Trump outside the White House. These are examples of extreme scrutinization that will only happen under closing opposition. Why is this important? We tell you that when this happens, it's likely for Donald Trump to fight it's likely for Donald Trump to change, since the government is harder to function under the circumstances. Secondly, why is destructive discourse the only way to go? We tell you there are a lot of positive outcomes that came from liberals fighting against Donald Trump. Here's the comparison between when liberals didn't and when liberals did. When liberals didn't, abortion clinics were closed. Secondly, gun laws were not passed. But what happened when individuals or liberals fought back against Donald Trump? Donald Trump went to the extent to talk to children inside the White House about gun laws. This is a clear example of a clear representation of how destructive discourse happens, not only happens, but it's actually beneficial, since Donald Trump now has to change his standings on gun control to please the liberals. Why is this important? This means that every move the Liberal makes is likely to be a winning move for the Liberals.
Yeah.
This means that when you want to close more abortion clinics, it's harder for you to do so for your own personal benefit, because now you have a whole society backing down upon you, clamping down upon you.
Yeah.
The problem with Donald Trump in the first place isn't because, it's firstly because he was complicit, but secondly, it's because he was complicit to his own ideas. He was more catering to the conservatives, but and that wasn't a sense of professionalism, and professionalism never existed in Donald Trump in the first place. So what incentive does Donald Trump have to do this, even if the destructive discourse doesn't happen? If they concede that the image of Donald Trump is getting worse and worse, the only incentive for individuals when they fully go rampant upon him, the only incentive that Donald Trump has to change himself is to make sure that people look up to him. Even if even if Donald Trump doesn't want people to look up to him, it's still likely for Donald Trump to be not discriminated and have more people elect him in the next coming elections. Why is this important? This means that Donald Trump, in his own selfish personal gain, will still want to opt into with liberals since they do destructive discourse and they fully go rampant upon you. And it's likely for you to lose a majority of the liberals in order, if you want to get more votes inside the next election. Understanding all those circumstances, we think that side closing opposition was the only one to prove why there are a lot of more tangible harms that happen under side government compared to side opposition. With that, go with CEO.
Okay. Thank you to member of opposition speech. The NGV from side government has called upon the government to
So ladies and gentlemen, what have we heard in this debate? Okay, first of all, on the opposition side, they told you about how this destructive discourse could give a lot of benefits to Donald Trump, so that Donald Trump could change, and then how he can actually make it more realize that he should change the way he works in the first place. Okay, on our side, on the government side, we tell you on both sides actually, we tell you on how that this Donald Trump itself is a person who is at the top, the president itself. Why is the exclusive of president? If you are a president in the first place, you are in power first. Second of all, when you are in power, you have all the things that you have done, the things that you do is something that is very significant towards the country. And third of all, if you are as a president itself, it's more likely for you not be criticized for what have been done. It's something that has been discussed towards the White House in the first place. And third of all, and fourth of all, that Donald Trump itself is a very firm person, like stated by the opposition. Okay, what is the problem coming from opposition in the first place? They tell you about how that he became famous because of the controversial, because he is a very because he is very famous in the first place. So making it the scrutiny is even worse, and then making it overwhelming in the first. We tell you that in my first speaker, I told you about this scrutiny itself. This scrutiny itself is degrading the government itself. We came to the stakeholder, which is the government. The government is something that is very powerful in the country. If you are actually a liberal, someone who is liberal, meaning that you are actually fighting towards your own government, making it actually harder now, making it for you to actually hard, to influence the people in the first place. And they tell you about how they can actually live by the expectations by the people. As you can see, that we cannot actually live by everybody's expectation in the first place. Why is it? Because like if someone expects you to do this kind of thing, it's based on your personal point of view. It's based on your personal point. Means that if you are if this liberal itself, do you think that what Donald Trump did
Sir.
is something very contradictory towards it? Before, yes, sir.
So your side assumes that the liberal ideas fights for every single idea. We think if the liberals don't fight for their own ideas, who's going to fight for them?
See, as you can see that even though that these kind of people who they have their own ideas, that even that this Donald Trump, he even also his plans to actually go for make America great in the end. So that this is something that he is fighting from the side. Even though that he made the walls, even though that he closed the clinics, even though he imposed the gun laws or whatsoever, he tells that he already catered to what's going to happen in America. Sit down, sir. Okay, moving on. This is about I would like to deliver on the closing opposition on the bad policy and people will jump to them so that people will make protests in the first place. As you can see, the things that this overwhelming scrutinization is something that will take down the government itself. Why? Because you are actually using your own speech, your hate speech in the first place, to actually degrade it and making it more hard for the government to do the next plan that they are going to make in the end of the day. Mean to say is that for you to actually protest itself in the first place, for you to make this kind of riot itself, making it that this kind of thing that people will think that you as a person who will not actually contribute towards your own country, making it hard for you. Yes, sir.
First, are you saying that a democratically elected president shouldn't suffer under criticisms of the public? Second, are you regretting the fact that Trump's softening stance has been due to that to liberal criticisms? And third, if you're so against hate speech, then explain, do you justify or criticize Trump's hate tweets? Yeah. Okay.
We do agree that scrutinization is something that is very important, but overwhelming scrutinization is not important, and it is very harmful towards the government. I said it before. Okay, when this happens itself, okay, like I said it before, it will make this government fall out the end. And then moving on to the second point on the destructive discourse. Okay, on the discourse. Okay, first of all, let's say if you are Donald Trump itself, and you have the power at the top, and then you will think that you have the responsibility to make your own country great, to make all the possibilities of the country, to make it known towards other people. But what this overwhelming criticization make is that, first of all, that it will, like my first speaker said to you, people will all think that America is a bad country. Why? Because that when people always say about bad things towards you, when they are criticizing something that's very bad, as you can see that the thing that Donald Trump do, maybe that all the good things that he have done have been blinded by people, and then all the bad things that maybe that just little bad things that he done, all the people on the world will think that is something is very bad itself. As you can see that this kind of problem itself, this kind of problem doesn't actually happen in the USA in the first place. It also happens on the third world country, and also on the second world country, and the whole world. But people didn't know it. They didn't know it because why? Because they is not having the overwhelming scrutinization in the first place. So this kind of scrutinization will actually take down the image of the USA itself. So mean to say that even if that this scrutinization can actually help the country to improve themselves in the end of the day, we told you that this is something that is actually going to make a it will actually take down the country in the end of the day, simply because that it actually can bring a lot of bad expectation, a bad vision towards USA itself. So with that, I thank you.
Okay, thank you to the government. To end the debate, let's call upon the opposition.
Yeah. I think this debate required a lot of clarity when it came to the liberal movement and when it came towards the president. Let's touch the president first. What does he do which is actually important? He influences the legislative system, he influences the executive system, and influences the judiciary system. The people he chooses to become judges, the kinds of laws they pass in parliament is the reason why President Trump is such an important person. Second thing about these liberal movements, right? We think these liberal movements are the only people who are going to fight for their narrative. Understanding that President Trump is a Republican who has certain narratives about nationalism which are incorrect, which is about getting rid of refugees from the country, we think that liberal movements are the only people who can stand and fight for those narratives in this debate. But let's just look at OG and CG, right? Because I find it very, very different coming from both of them. OG wanted to tell you, we'll celebrate everything that Trump does. And then CG told you, we will scrutinize them a bit. So here's the problem with both of them, right? If you're going to celebrate everything that Trump does, it inherently doesn't show the liberal stance. You do not represent your perception correctly if you always support every single policy, because you do not highlight to any individual or any movement for anyone to know what your stance is being the liberal movement. But secondly, on CG, they wanted to tell you that, we will scrutinize him a bit. They never told us what this scrutinization a bit would actually mean, but we think that on a comparative of effectiveness, right, when you're going to completely scrutinize, you go on a hard stance. You're all out for it. We think there is a much more impactful action that you're going to make in comparative when you're going to just say, hey, you're wrong. I think it is much more effective coming from side CO. Let's go for debattles from the opening house to closing. So first thing is that India wanted to tell us that President Trump will be protected from being bullied by the liberals by his own people. I don't think that is inherently true, because the idea that the liberals are always protesting you, they're standing outside the White House, they're leaving schools, students are not even in schools, and they're protesting against you, already shows that your education system cannot function in itself. So what does this mean, right? It means that your government is collapsing in trying to maintain the system. Does this highlight to Trump that it is a big problem? Yes, I mean if your government cannot function in the first place, or certain institutions or departments cannot function in itself, we think it highlights to Trump there's a big problem about gun laws and gun control. Inside government, what you're doing is basically, you're keeping quiet about it and you're being passive-aggressive. We think this passive-aggressive stance doesn't necessarily highlight to Trump the problem. But what it does more, it gives Trump a reason to be more complicit. Because what happens at the end of the day is Trump will say, well, nobody even highlighted to me that it's actually a problem that gun laws is a bad thing. So what is going to happen to Trump at the end? He has a reason to show that the people or the liberals being complicit is the reason why he never wanted to pass those laws at the end of the day. Very problematic from the PM. They also wanted to tell us about how that he has some form of professionalism. Look, I don't think a president who always tells us what time is press conference on Twitter is a professional individual. But secondly, when it comes to the idea of professionalism, when he jokes about press conferences, when he jokes about the statements that he can be made, being influenced with the policy, is where he has no level of professionalism at all. I think we go with President Trump head on. When you tell him straight in his face that what you're doing is incorrect, even if it may not be the most professional and the most posh manner to attract Trump, we think it sends the message to him, and that is the most important. We're willing to trade off any stance of how people could represent you in parliament, but rather we tell him straight in the face, look, what you're doing is extremely harmful. We can see how opening government doesn't want to give any POIs. Third thing they wanted to tell is that how, when people want to support him, because now that you criticize him a lot, the people who support him now, their hopes are being crushed. Look, we don't care if those people's hopes are being crushed. We think the liberal movement has to stand for their narrative in itself. We think my POI already made it clear, if the liberals never made a stance for themselves, who is going to? Nothing which engaged with any of you to CO, right? Because every time you meet with him in person, or you have a rally and you get some policy passed, you're more likely to celebrate that success even more. In comparison to government's work, whether any laws being passed or not, you passively, aggressively support or don't even support the idea in the first place. So then who can actually maintain this constructive and destructive discourse to become a more consistent narrative? I think side opposition goes with it, right? Because when you scrutinize and you criticize every action which is being done, it shows that you're consistent with your stance. If you're going to be like side government, you never make a stance which is like really firm and really seen by Trump. After all, he's a person who is firm in itself. He may be a person who's inconsistent, but when he makes certain statements or when he makes certain policies, we see it as a really hardline person. Second thing, on the idea of who remains in principle with these liberal movements. Because understand that these liberal movements are not the party which is dominating America, right? It's a movement which is coming up, they're getting a lot of votes, that means they're getting a lot of traction, right? We think if you want to get more, if you want to make yourself more impactful, you need to show and become a tangible, you need to have a tangible stance and tangible actions which are being taken. So how can you show you these tangible actions? Basically by campaigning in front of these places, people boycotting what the government does is much more tangible compared comparative to side government. So what does this lead to at the end of the day? We think that these liberal movements always taking tangible stances is what they should always do, and it is something which we will celebrate. In comparative to government's will, you will never celebrate any type of tangible action which is being taken, or you might even say that these people are not representing you correctly. Something which is extremely abhorrent coming from any of these sides. Third thing, who then gets more traction for the liberal movement, right? So we think under side closing opposition, we already told you these tangible actions will make more people come out from being scared because they always feel that Trump is a person who's hardline and no one wants to go against him. We think we give you the hope. We think we show you someone can hold hands with you and bring you to the White House and protest against him. We think that brings the amount of traction that the liberal movement needs in order to be voted into power in the first place. But even if the liberal movement doesn't need to be voted in power, we think Trump then becomes less complicit. He's more likely to attend and listen to all the problems between all of the minority movements. Notice CG and OG are still shocked. Let's go to the last issue on who actually helps with the top to bottom change. Understand that Trump is a person at the extremely top of the hierarchy of presidential candidates. We think that the liberal movement is at the bottom. If you can collect enough people and enough civilians to go on a riot, to go on rebellion, and go full force with it, we think your president realizes he's not ruling the country properly, he needs to make a change. We make America great again.
Okay, thank you to all teams. We cross the floor, shake hands. The results will be announced back in the hall.